Welcome back. It's time for us to take stock as to what's going on in our lives right now. If you did the opening reflections, you may already have a sense for how you're feeling across different areas of your life. If I were to ask you right now, you also may have a list of areas you want to focus on. But let's take a minute and go through a quick exercise and check in to see how satisfied we are across the different areas of our lives. All right, let's take stock. You'll see along the wheel, there's 8 different areas from personal growth, romance, family and friends, finances, home environment, health, joy and play, and career. Take a moment to look at those and note that we're going to score ourselves based on how satisfied we feel today in each of those areas. You're going to use the scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not satisfied, 10 being completely satisfied. And based on those scores, we're going to come back and talk about what that means. So, a note on the scoring before we get started. It's natural to want to get a score of 10 in each area. That sounds ideal. But what's really ideal is that all areas are flourishing equally. And so while you may want to strive for a 10 across the board, it's near impossible to be perfect in every area of your life all the time. That's natural. When one area falls out of balance, we can decide to bring our attention back when the time is right. We may intentionally choose to pull away from a certain area to help another area thrive. And so this is not about getting perfect scores. It's about being honest with ourselves as to where we are now so that we can get to where we want to be. So I'm going to show an example life wheel before we get started. So this is an example of a wheel which honestly reflects how I was feeling at the beginning of my life wheel process. When I started the Matria Life Chart program for myself, this is what was going on. My career was thriving, was doing really well there, which meant I was also pretty strong on the financial side. I was happy with my home, but it wasn't exactly where I wanted to be living. And so that was somewhere in the surviving category. And romantically, I was also surviving. But there were other areas of my life like personal growth, health, joy, family, and friends that were just struggling. By having such low score and suffering in joy and play, the other areas of my life also too were suffering. And so I actually focused after receiving this life wheel and that feedback from my coach, I focused on bringing more joy into my life. So take a moment now to go through your life wheel, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the scores together. So set yourself a timer for about 5 minutes, score yourself, and fill in your life wheel. And we'll see you soon. Okay, welcome back. So sometimes it can be confronting to look at your scores. So give yourself a minute, give yourself some grace if something's coming up that's either unexpected or surprising, or even if it just feels heavier now that you've confirmed something that you may have already known. You can also take a moment and give yourself a high five for the areas where you're thriving. That's, a lot to be proud of. I want to take a moment just to talk about the scores on the bottom of the screen here. If you've scored yourself anywhere between a 7 and a 10, it means you're thriving in that area. That's great. Let's celebrate that. If you scored yourself between a 4 and 6, it means you're surviving. So things aren't terrible, but they're also not as great as they could be. You're not really optimized in that area, living in the state of flow and fullness and love and compassion that you want to be in. And if it's between a 1 and a 3, it's an area that's suffering. So from here, we're going to actually choose between 3 and 4 areas that you want to focus on in this coming year. It may be the lowest scoring areas. It also may not be. I'm going to give you an example of one of my clients who I coached that had really great self-awareness after filling out this wheel. Her scores actually came back with really low scores in a few areas, including home and environment, joy and play, romance, and personal growth. What she really wanted was a relationship. She really wanted partnership, and she wanted that ASAP. But as she looked at those scores, she said to me, "You know what, Michelle? I've decided I'm going to focus first on home and environment, joy and play, and personal growth, because I know that I need those scores to improve before I can focus on a romantic partner. I know I need to get my home in order. I know I need to have more fun and bring more playfulness into my life. And I need to work on myself a bit more before I can call in that romantic partner." And so that's what we did. We focused on those three areas and built a plan for her to feel more whole as herself personally before moving towards a romantic partnership. I share that example because in some cases, it'll be an easy one that says, yep, it's time to focus on those low areas where I'm suffering. And in others, it's a chance for you to ask, why am I suffering? What is really out of whack here? Where can I focus? For a lot of people that are focused on career, it's very easy to lose track of something like joy and play. I had an experience in my career where I was having a hard time at a new leadership level. And so I had an executive coach to help me through that transition. And I did an assessment with her early on. I was waiting to get that assessment back and could not wait to see what the findings were. I was waiting for that list of the specific things I had to do to become a better leader. What she came back and said to me was, "Michelle, you're missing joy in your life." Oh my God, what a diagnosis. I had no idea that that could be something that an executive career coach could talk to someone about, joy and fun and play. But she was so right. Because I had focused solely on that career bucket, the other buckets in my life were really struggling. And I didn't have that full picture taken care of as to who I was. There was no balance. There was no fun. There was no love. It was all work. And that was making me show up in a less than ideal capacity for my career. And so by focusing on an area like joy and play, I was able to build a stronger career and to build better relationships across my wheel. There will be times when you intentionally duck out of an area. I'm going to keep using that word intentionally because that's okay. For example, let's say you've been on a financial path for many years and you've had your head down, and now it's time to pick your head up and actually enjoy some of that wealth that you've built. It's time to go on a vacation with your loved ones. It's time to go on a retreat and explore some personal growth that you've been interested in. Answer that calling that's been knocking on the door. Perhaps you've been really focused on your career and you decide it's time to step back and reprioritize health. Well, that's all well and good. My goal here is to help you continuously balance these areas so that you don't get to a breaking point where you have to stop in any one area fully. Instead, you can adjust slightly, bring in a little bit more fun, bring in a little bit more focus on your health, adjust where you have to so that that wheel can keep turning in a balanced way. So with that, take a couple of moments and think about what areas you want to focus on. We're going to carry those forward into our life wheel in the next section. So we'll see you on the next video soon.